So I'm just going to sort of let the ship paddle itself very well. What I'd like for our panelists to do is introduce themselves and give us a few minutes on what their roles are, you know, as you deal in the day-to-day.
I usually have to start these with describing what the Tremor business model. So before I launch into that, I'm curious, show of hands, how many are familiar with Tremor or have at least heard of it? A few more than expected, so I guess we're kind of getting out there. So by way of background, Tremor is a marketing services company that P&G started about 9 years ago. The thought was we know word of mouth is very important in marketing in terms of consumer decisions. Who do I trust? I most trust and listen to someone like me, a trusted source.
So I'm Charlie Marriott. I'm the Director of Global Operations at Bazaar Voice. It became apparent to me last night that not everyone knows who Bazaar Voice is or what we do, so I thought I'd spend a few minutes talking about that. Our name means the voice of the marketplace, and today we're the market leader in social commerce. As of today, we have over 600 brands globally that we've partnered with, and we're essentially a technology and a service provider that enables user-generated content on those brands' websites.
So I'm with American Express. Don't think I have to explain that company. Been around 158 years. I'm there for about 1 year. I have dual responsibility. I head up the global marketplace insights for the B2B business. I also have responsibility for measuring, assessing, and analytics around our global brand, advertising, image across all media. So traditional media all the way to digital media.
So let me ask you right from the start, what do you expect from Zinc? You say you don't know really what to expect. What are you hoping will happen? Does it have a purpose? And how will you know if you've reached that?
It's a great question. One question we keep saying, how do we define success?
Right.
So, you know, there are the traditional metrics just of cards and wallets and acquisition. But it is not about that. Can we attract this and create this community? And can the American Express brand and image be seen as a digital forward-looking company? You know, are people going to go within this Zinc tank and then connect it to other sites? Recommend this product? Start a dialogue around the design. Along with the card, you get to design different packs. There's an eco pack, there's a digital pack, a traveler's pack. So we also want to see, are they going to create other packs? And is that going to just take off and again, the viral network expanded on its own?
Sure, one of the reasons I'm asking that is it might be interesting benchmark for people out here to incorporate in their studies to find out what's really important to an industry when it comes to user. Janelle, what benchmarks do you have?
A comment on his world, being able to tie the actual cards and wallet to the online measures is actually unique in a lot of cases. In our consumer products world, trying to tie what's going on in online and whether it's in the Bazaar Voice world of product reviews, that volume, tying it back to our volume, our actual sales volume, is very difficult to do. We don't know if a review causes volume or does volume cause review, and how do we untangle that is actually an interesting challenge.
How are you going about that?
Well, you have to look at it. Our best methodology right now looks at it over longer periods of time to try to have that net out, but then it becomes less valuable. So the challenge would be, how do you get it granular enough so that it's useful as we start to see? Because in the perfect world, as we see changes in the user-generated content, whether it's product reviews being positive, and we can plan for that from a supply chain standpoint, or if we have negative product reviews and we can hit that from a PR standpoint, we don't know what's the granularity. We know the sooner we know it, the better, but we have a hard time tracking.
And that's really where the partnership with all the web analytics vendors becomes so important to be able to deeply tag and mine the data and the interaction of the end consumer with the user-generated content and be able to track and metricize that and tie that to conversion and those sort of metrics.
Right. How much time am I going to be spending on an average basis when everybody's going to do this, and how can I then keep myself attached to a certain brand or product?
Let me repurpose your question a little bit. So one of the things that Bazaar Voice is really focused on is the commerce aspect of it, and not just social. So we haven't really expanded a lot into blogs and forums and those sort of things. So our primary purpose is really on finding tools. We sell to the CFO. So what are the tools? What are the metrics that we can sell from a social perspective that are really tying conversion and value back to our clients? So, for example, like with the Facebook Connect situation, we just went live with Walmart just last week, but we're deep in the trenches with them and looking at the data that's coming back to see, all right, how much has site traffic increased, how much has conversion increased, all those sort of things. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but as far as are you asking what is the general expectation of how much time people are spending engaging in social platforms, or?
Yeah, no, also, what is the actual conversion? Because it's great to have the network, but is it really paying off in the end? Is it leading to commerce?
Terrific question.
And
Go ahead, Janelle.
one of the key areas for us are low involvement categories versus high involvement categories. We see a lot of academic research on high involvement categories like the automobiles and computers. But how much of that translates to these low involvement? I'm buying toilet paper. I'm buying Tide. So in terms of another kind of research challenge for us is there a difference with a low involvement category where people aren't going to be spending the time? And how do they stumble across user-generated content? Because not that many are going out and searching for it.
One thing
In a low involvement category.
One thing that we've seen from, I guess, this conversion in a different light, not so much from dollar volume, but use of membership rewards points. So people are within this kind of loyalty group. They have membership rewards, and a high percentage of our posts and discussion in blogs is around membership rewards. How do I use them? What should I use them for? And we have seen the people that engage in that, those consumers, their use of membership rewards and posts and reposts again significantly increase. So we're converting, I guess, usage of membership rewards at a higher rate online than people that are not engaging online in these blogs. Is this to improve our brand and brand image? Is this to drive business and bottom line, shareholder value? Is this to really introduce new products and help, spur innovation? So and then the fourth thing is this a service channel? And when you say yes to all that, the executives say, pick one. So we started with servicing, because that is really one of our brand promises. But then there's this, again, ringing going on in debate at the senior levels. The CMO is saying, this is about our brand. We have to be out there. We have to go where our consumers are going. Yet, people that, day in, day out are launching products and trying to get the cards out there, they're saying, how do I get acquisition? How do I use this to increase, sales? How do I put more cards out there? So that debate is, no one has given a clear answer of, or even shown a timeline, user-generated media over the next 3 to 5 years.
Certainly that's very interesting user-generated content, what I purchased at Walmart.
Yep.
Why would anybody want to have all the stuff they purchase at Walmart visible to their friends on Facebook?
Well, first, it's not it's an opt-in thing. You get a post-purchase email and say, okay, of these things I bought, I want to recommend these to my friends. And I think from a lot of the kind of the psychological evaluations of humanity that has been going on early this morning, there's a lot of different motivators. Some people generally want to help the public. Other people just want to show off what they've bought. Other people bought a big screen TV and they want to tell everyone about it, and then tangentially Walmart benefits from that. So I think there's a lot of different motivations behind it.
Say, within Tremor, when word of mouth is negative about, say, what do you do?
In terms of actually employing Tremor and utilizing our panel, at this point we don't do that. It's within the product management purview. So picture the brands actually with their ER and PR folks create the response. But we do individual, when warranted, individual responses. And there's a new role coming on board that is I forget what the title is, but basically it's a brand manager level person who is monitoring what's going on and making the decision for that particular brand based on that brand's equity and what the issue might be.
Christopher, response strategy.
When we started our pilot, we thought our engagement with blogs responses would be in the 30 to 35% range. That's what the pilot showed us. I could tell you in reality, now that we're in full operation mode, it's less than 10%. And that, we have learned that over the past, I would say, 6 months. Our biggest lens that we use, whether we should respond or not, will our response advance the conversation? Can we impart new information to inform and further the dialogue versus, get into a he said, she said situation?
You don't ever want to really be defensive, though, in these scenarios. It's a great listening tool to some degree, right?
Right, and it has to fit with the equity of your brand. I mean, it has to be consistent. If you're Pampers, you certainly don't want to come out with a strong, response, given you're all about warmth and loving mothers.
Across our entire client base, about 10% of the content doesn't meet the criterion or the guidelines to be acceptable for approval to be on the website. But that 10% is actually where probably the most value for a client is. It really there's tons and tons of information there around how your business is doing. Do you have good customer service? Do you have the right shipping vendors? Do your clothes fit well? And then through our moderation process and our technologies, we're partnering with those clients to then understand their internal processes so that we can be the engine that fuels that we call it the customer oxygen within their organizations. So product managers are changing out products. One of the things that Walmart has in place is a process where on a monthly basis they go through their entire product lineups. Anything below a 3-star rating, they go back to their vendors, they pull it and say, okay, here's what's wrong with this, and you either fix it or we're not selling it anymore. That's really Brett, our CEO's mission is really creating that transformation, allowing the user-generated community to really go and transform the quality of products and to really go and build influence.
Because one of the things that we use UCG for, there's really two different there's measurement, whereas we try to understand what's the buzz and what do we see going on and measuring the actual volume. And then there's the insight generation. What can we get consumers to tell us that we don't have to pay expensive market research? And so those are two very different uses for UCG. Within the word of mouth space, when we think about the ongoing word of mouth on low volume categories or low involvement categories, we tend to see more positive. It's more about a new product and the positives because of the negative word of mouth happens when there's a missed expectation. Low involvement category, a missed expectation doesn't hit kind of the energy threshold to actually generate the conversation. So I would think that would translate online.
What about Amex? I mean, that's...
What's surprising is the amount of both neutral comments, and you think financial services, I mean, this is very personal, people. I mean, they take it out of their wallet every day. Everyone, the product managers, brand managers have access on their desktop to their user-generated dashboard. When they see a post and they read it, if they don't feel that it is coded correctly, real time, they could click it, change the rating, and put in a comment why. That is then fed back to the social media analyst.
Have you done any analysis to determine the differences between the opinion leaders online and offline on the street, and how representative is all this that we're talking about online to the real world?
I love it that he gave me a yes/no question. The answer to that question is no, but it is. We've not done any analysis, but it's certainly the 990 weighs heavily on our minds in terms of how we think about the value of the learning. Certainly from the insight generation, what are the insights that we might get from the one? Are they really representative?
We just look at things like, what can we do if user-generated content kind of moves from a regular dog to a Rottweiler, So when the tsunami rolls towards us, what can we do? And maybe even competitors can use that and say, well, we got afraid of it. So what do you do?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so authenticity of the review content is key, not only just for word of mouth in general, but also for the success of our company. And so to head that off, we have several different things in place. Number one, we're very open up front in any kind of sales cycle that we will not do business with you if you want to reject negative reviews. So having negative reviews on a website is extremely important and makes the whole thing work. So that's number one. Number two, we have both technological and people processes put in place where we're analyzing all of the content that's coming to us, looking for trends for fraud and spam. And then technologically, it's kind of triaged based on a matrices of threat analysis and all that kind of good stuff. And then the stuff that rises to the top is then a deep dive is done by an analyst team to figure out if competitors are spamming websites, if this is a hacker attempt, or yada yada yada.
Pete, you have a question?
Is this whole event worth your while? What do you guys want in the conversation with the academics? So, and I'd like to hear from each of you real briefly. Are we looking at the right topics? What's the right way for us to be interacting with each other? Are you guys interested in general in the work that we do, and how can we kind of best convey that to you?
Yeah, so first of all, as I shared with you earlier, this is a very exciting opportunity for me and for Bazaar Voice. We're on the road a lot. We hear a lot from different vendors, a lot from our clients and other kind of thought leaders in the social space. But kind of the vacuum of our portfolio of perspective is definitely from the academic arena. So I really appreciate having this opportunity to hear from you guys.
It's a great question. And I'm going to answer it with a question that we get all the time. How do you define success of user-generated media? And everyone internally has their own, perspective. Maybe they're coming at it from their own fiefdom. But if this group could come up with a short list of metrics and be irritatingly objective to say, these are the 5 metrics, whether it's advocacy, post satisfaction. I'm not sure what it is, but that is the essential question. How do you define success of user-generated media? Why should we be there? It's not just because 20 people are going into the Apple store, to use that analogy. All the big companies are saying we have to be on Twitter. Why? And Twitter in 18 months is going to look quaint to whoever knows what the next thing is. But that is the question. How do you define success? Why should we be there?
Janelle, what do you want out of these guys?
Insights into how I add to our knowledge base on word of mouth and so our core business. I do these academic conferences through MSI regularly, call it a couple times a year. And I never know what nugget I'm going to get out of it, but I can tell you I've already gotten a nugget out of this one from the standpoint of introducing network analysis methodology into the realm of the UCG. And in terms of trying to understand insights, and can we map overall concepts together to understand categories and motivations. I've already seen some things I'm like, ooh, we can take that back. And what I typically do is then go back, and I'm currently working with 3 different academics from previous MSI conferences on, ooh, how can we push the peanut forward to understand how to create word-of-mouth messages or how to understand insights. So that's kind of why I'm here.
So Jonah Berger and I are working on a project with Buzz Agent, which is a buzz marketing firm that has a whole range of clients that have been operating for about 5 or 6 years now. We had a data set spanning 300 different products. And so the question there was, what characteristics of items, not the people, not the network structure, but what about the items themselves lend themselves to be talked about? And some of the simple findings, which on the surface seem pretty intuitive, are people tend to think the most novel or surprising, most interesting products are the ones talked about. Turns out that's not the case. Across the board in this sample of offline word of mouth, it's the products that are used most frequently and cued by the environment most frequently. And we drilled down that mechanism in a field experiment with Buzz Agent and one of their clients in a large-scale field experiment to uncover that mechanism and have support for that. So that's just one slice at that big question of what are the product attributes that tend to lend products to be talked about.
Interesting. There's a question right next to you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and it actually leads off that product attributes. Maybe I'll send this over to American Express. How do you see the evolution where you've got existing legacy products and you try to fit them into social media structure, where now you're starting to think of new products that would be more apt to fit into that structure, and how does that tension work with product managers and marketers?
So with our existing products, like the green card, which is probably one of our older products, they're doing it from looking at by industry or vertical. So if they approach it from a travel, entertainment, or access, there's a lot of interest around music. So you find people's passions, and they're using that as kind of the entry point, and then bringing in almost a product as a byproduct of it. So that the green team they're looking at it and say, where are the transactions? Are people traveling a lot? With this group, or with a gold card, it tends to be more about access. Obviously, the more higher income products like the Centurion card, the Black card, very low engagement that we're seeing. So they're approaching it by vertical and by passion.
One last question, Whitney.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that Bazaar Voice will only work with client partners if they don't screen out the negative reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually working with some of your data with my co-author, Dina Mason, who's heading all the way back there. And we're finding some benefits for retailers to keep those negative reviews. And my question for you is, what's the reason that Bazaar Voice wants to maintain the negative reviews? Is it just philosophical, or is it something?
Yeah, it's a philosophical thing. I mean, if you go to a website and you see only glowing reviews, I mean, it doesn't pass. I think the gentleman's term was the sniff test. I mean, the reason that word-of-mouth marketing works is because it's not coming from a big corporate marketing firm. It's coming from someone that I trust and someone like me. Same thing, as part of our screening process, we look for marketing copy. It's pretty obvious to tell what has been generated by an average user versus a marketing agency that's just trying to get creative and flooding people's sites. The first gentleman that gave his presentation talking about kind of incentives, and he spent a lot of time talking about incentives and incentive types that work by type of user and the different motivation of those users. Mr. Clean did a campaign where you get a free one of those white erasers, and they generated 150,000 pieces of content in a day, just a chance to get one of those different cleaning bars. So looking at the different incentive models by industry, by vertical, and by user type, I think is very interesting.
Excellent. Okay, so we've heard, I think our panelists have been able to gather some useful nuggets from the morning so far. We will start at 1 o'clock, and let's thank our panel, please.